Let's start off with the quarterbacks because those were the first ones we spotted right off the bat when we got in on the field. But before I even start with the quarterbacks, just I know you talked about this. I asked you about it, but I'll say this: I do like LMU's setup more than I do UC Irvine. I'll say this: like, you didn't do it any justice with what you said last week, so I'll just confirm what you kind of talked about. It is true. I mean, the campus being right next to the beach is awesome. And then you walk up, you see hand gathers as you talked about. Also, the media room is inside of it's like a meeting room. It's air conditioning, leather seats, so all that it's really cool. But in terms of it has like this. I like the small setup because it allows the fans to kind of be you surround the field, and it's just an intimate kind of training camp from the other ones that I've seen around the league, the ones that I've actually been able to go to. So, big ups to the Rams for doing this because I to me I think it's a better setup, but I just wanted to confirm what you said. But I thought that was really that I really do like the setup much better.
Yeah, it might be the smallest one, the smallest training camp site that I've been to, but it's a good view from anywhere where you sit. Unfortunately, you don't get as many fans in there as you did at Irvine, but shout out to LMU people. It was well run. It seemed like everybody was getting in and out very quickly in terms of parking. Also, the weather is awesome. When you
Yes.
get out there, you think maybe 5 p.m. anywhere else would be hot, but it's breezy and low sun there is awesome. But you're really right there. You can see you could hear when people are screaming Puka Nakoi. He turns around, says hello. You can hear somebody say, "Hey, Stafford, give me an autograph." I think it was Jimmy G was getting asked for an autograph. So yeah, it's a good venue. I like it. If I had to create like my favorite venues, it might be up there. I don't think anything's gonna beat Seattle because the Seahawks are right next to the lake and it's just beautiful
Oh yeah.
weather and big trees and all that. But in terms of the intimate setting kind of vibe, and something you just kind of say that to say things they're small but they're not great. But no, it's actually pretty nice. I think for them it works. It works pretty
Yeah.
nice, and we'll see what they do with it.
Yeah, the only thing as you talked about too, I guess the only negative is they had to bring in the field goal post, and it was the skinny ones, just because
Yeah.
that's all they can bring in there. So that's the only I guess fallback to this. But in terms of having that one field, I thought it was pretty intimate, and I really enjoyed my time there yesterday. But just to kind of get into it, before we start here, it says Flaco says checking in puro ramstero. So what's going on, Flaco? Good to
What's
have
up,
you on
Flacco?
here. All right, Gilbert. So let's start with the quarterbacks. What did you see? What was your takeaways from the quarterbacks?
I'll be quick on Stafford. He was on fire, especially the first day that I went. I think yesterday was a little more of a sluggish day. Second day of pads, more of a focus on the running game day. So it wasn't a lot from the quarterbacks, but it was nice to see Stetson Bennett out there. He had a rough rookie year where he just disappeared and nobody knew what the hell happened with him. But he didn't get too many reps because Jimmy G and Stafford were taking the bulk of it. But to see him out there a couple times, I think the first day that I went, he made a nice play on the sideline up the sideline for a long play to Ronnie Rivers. You saw him out of the backfield and hit him in stride, and that was a good play. So it's gonna take some work for Stetson Bennett, but see him out there practicing was nice to see.
Yeah, I mean, and just to see, they had one of the things I saw was that Dave Ragoni, the quarterbacks coach. I was trying to figure out. It's like he looks familiar. I'm like, I've seen this guy before, and of course he played in the league. So I was like, okay, it was funny to see that, kind of doing some research, that him and Zach Robinson kind of switched roles because he was the quarterbacks coach, and now at Atlanta, and now he's the offensive coordinator there, and now he's Dave Ragoni is the quarterbacks coach. So I thought that was kind of cool. They were having like a little huddle meeting there before when we first got there. So, but just kind of moving on in terms of the running backs and receivers, Gilbert. I'll start off with the running backs. Seeing Kyron Williams and Blake Corum, they're like the Spider-Man meme. they look just alike,
Yeah,
Gilbert. We
yeah.
we kept looking at them, and I was like, okay, they're one of them's 23, the other one's 22, and I was like, okay, who's in right now because they have the same stature, they run almost identically the same. I mean, and it just tells you they're ready. If Kyron Williams for some reason gets hurt, he's ready to go. But I just thought, like looking at it, I couldn't tell them apart if I'm being completely honest. The only thing was that one of them is 23 and the other one's 22. But yeah,
Yeah, and just to add to that, because yesterday it was a run heavy day. I saw a whole lot of Kyron Williams. He was making plays, and then it got to a point where, like, is that Kyron or Blake Corum? And I think
yeah,
because the jerseys kind of they go up a little high, so you can't tell which number. It's 22, 23. A couple of times it was Blake Corum, number 22. So, yeah, it's gonna be a fun 1-2 punch there, and that's why you want to see Jonah Jackson healthy because you want to see them these maulers create these massive running lanes for Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. But we'll see. And I was a big fan of the pick because of Kyron Williams' injury history. You want to protect yourself, and we'll see what they do together.
yeah. And then kind of just moving on to the receivers. Anything that stood out to you from the receivers
Yeah, like I
besides
mentioned
that? The,
earlier. Yeah, the trio is gonna be very good there. I mean, to kind of go off from that, Tutu Atwell made a couple plays.
yeah,
I don't know. I think he might get lost on the shuffle, but he's gonna be a guy that if injuries occur, you could count on to help out there. I remember a couple of years ago when like, oh, you have like maybe 7 guys that could do well. Remember Lance McCutcheon or no, you had Ben Skoranek, and now you don't have as much depth, but you have a pretty good trio on Demarcus Robinson and Puka Nakua. And with Robinson, I think last year he was a surprise player, and like, oh, okay, let's see what he does as number 3. And now I think nobody is going to be surprised if he does something big. He's going to have opportunities to start. He's for sure a starter, number 3 there, and we'll see what he does. But I think they might need a little more depth there. But at least they have Tutu as the number 4.
I'll say this: just keep an eye on number 88, Whittingham, the kid
Yeah,
out of Texas. He was making some plays, long hair. You can't miss him out there. If you see him during the preseason, just keep an eye on
yeah.
number
They might
88
use
because
him a lot
he
for returning duties. We'll
special,
see.
yeah, special teams. He's gonna be a big special teams guy. Uh, but yeah, like and then let's finish up the offense with the offensive linemen and tight ends. And this, I think Stevan might have seen my rundown here, Gilbert, because look at this comment here by Stevan. Says, sorry if I take your question, Victor, but the tight ends are really looking good. Davis Allens has bulked up big time since last year. Cody Parkinson is a giant, and Harner Long is looking good as well. And I'll say this: that was in my notes here, Gilbert. Davis Allen is gonna he's primed for a breakout year. I told you, you said I need a guy. If I'm gonna call him a breakout, he needs to be 2 years or 3 years in the league. This is your guy here for the Rams, Gilbert, because Davis Allen was making plays out there yesterday. Kobe Parkinson looks like a dude. Like he is that guy is massive. Like he's gonna be a good blocker. And then to your point, Steve, Hunter Long was making plays as well, and we kept looking at the number, and we're like, oh yeah, as long as we were like we haven't seen him because he can't stay healthy, but yeah, he looked good out there, Hunter Long as well. So good eye by you, Steve.
Yeah, you would rather have Tyler Higbee healthy, but I think they're in a good
Yeah,
spot because, yeah, maybe Davis Allen is not a polished blocker, but he's a very good pass catcher, and I'm surprised people didn't talk about him as much towards the end of the year. When they were saying what a great rookie class, Kobe Turner, Puka Nakua, Steve Avila. I'm like, bring in Davis Allen's name when you're talking about the rookie class. I thought Davis Allen was impressive and I know it was very limited. I want to say maybe it was a Ravens game where he really stepped up as a pass catcher there. He knows how
in
to
the
run
playoff
routes.
game too, Gilbert.
Yeah.
Like once Tyler Higbee went down, he
Yep.
he made some nice catches, especially down by the red zone.
Yeah, reliable hands and a very shifty guy. And also we've seen the stories about the Rams wanting to go up and get Brock Bowers. That kind of tells me that maybe Tyler Higbee is on the back end of his career, and I think they're already thinking about life without him. But if Davis Allen could continue developing it as a playmaker and Cody Parkinson could help out in the blocking game, they should be okay without Higbee. But obviously, you want Higbee because he does a little bit of everything. And if Hunter Long stays healthy, then the more the better.
Yeah, I know we talked about a lot about the offensive line, Gilbert. Just to kind of give a quick little, just some thoughts here on the offensive line. Kevin Dotson looks like they were running behind him, and he was just mauling dudes over when we saw practice yesterday. Kevin Dotson is worth the money that they paid him, and I think a lot of the running plays that you're gonna see, especially if Jonah Jackson has to miss some time, they're gonna run behind him and Havenstein. I mean that is it. That is a massive unit, especially on that side of the ball where you have Steve Avila, you can have Kevin Dotson and Rob Havenstein. Yeah, run the ball to the right, and then you'll see how much success you're going to have if you're the Rams.
For Steve Avila, nobody's really talking about him, and that's a good thing for a center. That means you're doing your
Yes.
job. You're not screwing it
Yep.
up. So, and one thing about Steve Avila in terms of as a person or his personality, he's a very outgoing person. The first day that I was at Rams camp, he just showed up into the media center and started talking to everybody. So if you're
Yep.
that very outgoing, that means you communicate well. You're going to communicate with your quarterback. You're going to say, "Hey, how do you want the ball here? When do you want to snap?" Things like that. So it sounds like so far so good. And to one of the comments earlier, yeah, you don't want him going back and forth from guard to center. So maybe it's a good thing just keep him a center at all times.
Yep, that's a good point by you there, Gilbert. All right, let's move on. Let's move over to the defense. Let's begin with the secondary. I know we had a lot to say there, but I'll just say this, Gilbert. Quentin Lake, friend of the show who joined us during Super Bowl Radio Week. I mean, I've seen him doing some interviews, but Sean McVay talked about him post, yesterday after practice, and he was saying that he loves his versatility, and on that video that I posted of Cooper Cup, with that nice timing touchdown with Stafford throwing him the ball, Quinn Lake was on that. He was guarding him there, and then he shrugged it off, and then during later on during full when they went 12 on 11 on 11 and you had you were running actual plays, he stood out like he was breaking up passes. And I mean, just to see Sean McVay talk about him and rave about him, I thought that's a big deal. And I was kind of concerned in terms of him moving up to a new position and the way he was going to be used by the new defensive coordinator. I thought he might be, someone that might be relegated to the bench, but that doesn't sound like it. It looks like he's going to be a starter, and he's one of those guys that they're really gonna need to rely on because he's making a lot of good plays out there.
Yeah, he's versatile. He has size and length. He knows how to find the ball. I think he's a playmaker. The biggest thing for him is consistency, just being steady. There's a couple of times where like he's like getting beat in a play here or lingering on that play here and there. So if he's able to kind of just have more good than bad, and in the NFL you're gonna have some bad players you're gonna want back, but he was able to limit that where it's a lot more good and some bad every now and then he's gonna be a good player. But to see him continue to develop, it's noticeable out there, and you saw yesterday. I saw for the 2 days I went, and he's definitely gonna be somebody who's gonna be involved in the secondary.
Was there anybody else for you that kind of stood out during the secondary?
Well,
That
it's a bunch of injuries right now, but the first day I was there, I really liked the competition that Darius Williams and Davis White provided against Puka Nakua. You could tell they wanted to challenge, and then Puka told me after those guys made sure to watch my tape. They're looking for my weaknesses. They're trying to push me, and that makes them better or makes both of them better. So, yeah, if Darius Williams comes back healthy quickly, if Davis White could still come back or just keep doing what he's doing and stay healthy and available, they're going to be fine. But just seeing the competition and the experience on the field, that's going to go a long way.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Tre'Davious White was. I mean, we didn't even mention that Deshaun Jackson was out there, and so was LaShawn McCoy, and we were talking about how they were teammates, Tre'Davious White and LaShawn McCoy, and so he was out there talking, and he made a couple of good breakups on the ball, and he looks like he has that makeup speed because I was kind of concerned. I was like, "Is are we going to be able to see him make up that speed?" And he did. He went back and then was able to catch up to a ball and deflect it. So that's a good sign, having Tre'Davious White out there already, especially coming of two injury riddled seasons with the Bills.
Yeah, and just to add one more, Cam Curl kind of also reminds me, same body type as Quinton Lake. He has size, not as bulky, a little more on the skinnier side, but he knows how to find the ball. He's a playmaker. I know he was in that terrible secondary for the Commanders last year, but he might do some things with Chris Shula.
All right, let's finish up here, Gilbert, with our camp visit recap, and let's finish up with the front seven here and some special teams. And let me get to Delber's comment here, and he was at or his question. It says, "How do the linebackers look?" And a still unknown question in this defense. And honestly, the only linebacker you need to worry about or not worry about is Ernest Jones. I mean, Ernest Jones. Now that there is no Aaron Donald on this team, you could tell he's the leader of this defense, Gilbert. He is not only doing it vocally, but he's also doing it with this play. I saw him just the as we talked about Tre'Davious White, we talked about some of those guys in the secondary. They were all over there stretching with him. He is the leader of this team. I don't know what the Rams are waiting to extend him. I know they don't like to pay for this position, but you don't want to lose a guy like this who is a big leader. I want to see how he fits in now that you don't have an Aaron Donald, but in terms of leadership, that's the guy. He's the guy on defense now that Aaron Donald is gone.
Yeah, no, I think you don't have to worry about Ernest Jones, like you mentioned, Victor. The only problem is depth on that roster. Like you still see a lot of Roseboom out there, so we'll see. Maybe they have another guy that step up to help out Ernest Jones. It's just you have one really good linebacker who I thought should have made the Pro Bowl last year, and then a
Yep.
lot of question marks behind them. So if he stays healthy, they should be fine. But you would like to see the Rams utilize that position a little more. But hey, they have some depth on the defensive front. You could create different packages where you kind of integrate the linebackers with the defensive ends, and maybe you think about it that way a little more instead of linebackers, defensive linemen.
What about in terms of the defensive line? I have one, and I'll make it quick, Gilbert, and that is Michael Hoyt. Michael Hoyt looks like he's revamped his body. He looks like a defensive end. I didn't want to just say he looks a lot like his body type looks like a lot like the other white rushers out there, like Max Crosby, and T.J. Watt, but he looks cut like a guy. So I just want to see if he can actually do something with it now that he is pushing with Jared Verse out there. So it'll be interesting to see if the rookie can surpass him or if Michael Hoyt, with the way he looks now, and is he's able to continue to make plays now that he's kind of reshaped his body into a defensive end
Yeah,
body.
Michael Hoyt is making Jared Verse earn his opportunities or earn a starting job. That's why I haven't seen too much of Jared Verse. But when he's out there, he's making his plays. But Michael Hoyt is not gonna just roll over and say, "Here, hey, take my 20 snaps per game. You can have him." He's not gonna do that. So maybe that's why he's in tip top shape. We all know that he went from defensive tackle to edge rusher, and maybe it's taken him a couple years to have his body round out to that. But also, it could create packages where he's playing inside and they're playing outside, and you have more edge rushers this year than you did last year. So, and we'll see. Maybe that's the way to think about it. Where Ernest Jones could be also an edge rusher, but maybe obviously help you out as a sideline playmaker. But yeah, maybe they could have used another maybe one more edge rusher because you would like to have four deep on a rotation to help you
Yep.
out. But they're building something and they're trending, and when you have Braden Fist too in there, I think this front could be pretty good.
Yeah. And that was the one guy that kind of stood out to me just in terms of the defensive line. But do you have any other players that kind of stood out for you from the defensive line? If not, we have a little bonus. Ask Gilbert here from Steve.
Uh, I think Byron Young, I know he's not as big as Jared Burrs, but he looks comfortable out there. He looks like, he knows what he's doing. So I'm not worried about Byron Young. And obviously, he didn't have as big of a rookie year as Kobe Turner did, but I think people are overlooking what Byron Young could do in year two. And he's been impressive for his well, I guess for the first 2 camp practices that I went to.
Yeah, and he looks a little bit bigger. I mean, he's starting to fill in. I mean, we as most players who go from their rookie season to their sophomore year, you could tell they make changes to their bodies, and that's good to see. And it'll be interesting to see how good he what the next step is for him next season.